Hi guys, it's Meat Feast here. I was reading an article online recently which really got me thinking, and it was that Nintendo's president was saying eventually they might pull out of the console market, which I thought was really interesting, and I thought it'd be worth a video talking about why I think that's actually maybe not a bad thing. So the one thing that Nintendo consistently gets right is that they make quality games, especially the first party titles. Um, on every console, they've had a wealth of games, first party heavy hitters. You've got Mario, Zelda, Pokemon, and then you've got the more obscure ones like Smash Brothers and Pikmin. And you could go on and on with the list. They really do nail it with the games. They're all great quality and they all sell like hotcakes. But then when you look at the consoles, it's a different story. Um, for every great console like the N64 or the Super Nintendo, there's a bit of a damp squib like the Wii U or the GameCube. Yeah, they've got some good games on them, but generally the consoles were deemed as failures. Even the Wii, which was crazily popular, it had loads of problems which were never addressed. So thinking about what Nintendo said about possibly eventually coming out of the console market, it got me thinking that would this actually be a bad thing? And I thought I'd use the Switch as an example of where Nintendo goes wrong, in my opinion. So I love the concept of the Switch. The idea of playing your games on the go is fantastic. Who doesn't want that? That's what we've all been dreaming about for a long time. We're not talking 3DS games. We're not talking mobile games. We're talking proper games like Skyrim and Zelda, where you can proper get into them on the move. Like, who doesn't want that? For the most part, it works on the Switch, particularly the single player games, but you have to make concessions. And I understand that you have to make concessions because it's a portable console. But there's a lot of things and design choices with the Nintendo Switch which I think Nintendo made badly wrong, and I think eventually it's going to cost the console in the long term. I mean, if you take the Power for example, now no one expected it to be competing with the modern consoles going 4K, but the Switch can't even maintain 720p when docked. That's less than the PS4 and the Xbox, which came out in 2013, which is, in my opinion, that should have been the baseline that they were aiming for. Yeah, you could get 1080p on when you're docked and 720p when you're on the move. I think everyone would have accepted that. But generally the console feels really underpowered, and that's within a year of release. In 2 years, it's gonna be terrible. Then you've got to take a look at the online side of the console and the infrastructure or lack thereof. You've got a console which is criminally underserved. The original Xbox, and I'm not talking the Xbox 360 or the Xbox One, I'm talking the original Xbox from 2001, had a better online system. If you want to add a friend, you got to add a unique code, enter a unique code. I mean, come on, it's the late, nearly 2020, and we're entering a code. If you want a voice chat, you've got to get a mobile phone and a third-party app. Really. You can't watch Netflix currently. You can basically watch Netflix on any device in the world, and they don't have it available. You don't have a web browser. The games that you bought on the virtual console don't work. You have to purchase them again, which I think is just insanity. I think that's a major misstep for Nintendo, and things like achievements and trophies, which would fit perfectly with Nintendo's games, absolutely perfectly. They're just non-existent. And then you've only got 30 gigabytes of storage, which is pitiful for a portable console where you want to have your games on the move. Yeah, you can get memory cards to top it up, but it just seems really lacking and poor design choices. Again, it's just continually I see Nintendo make these console design choices where I'm like, what are you doing? Whereas the other companies seem to get them right. If you look at the Xbox's backwards compatibility, Nintendo is crying out for a backwards compatibility market like that, because they've got such a good catalog, but they seem to underserve the paying customers. And then you've got the third party support, which again is really poor. You get games like FIFA or COD, and the shells of the actual game, they're not worth playing. And that's what makes me think that maybe it's actually better if Nintendo move away from the console market and just focus on what they do best, which is making the quality games that they're known to make. And then they can bring them to other consoles, and they won't lose any revenue because they've got the Xbox, they've got the PlayStation markets, which would fill in that void, and then they've got the mobile market, which they seemed unwilling to tap. We know that Sony and Microsoft make good consoles. They've been doing it consistently for the last 2 or 3 generations, and every year the consoles seem to improve on what was there previously. You see evolution there, and I love the fact that Nintendo try and come up with these great ideas. Like, I admire the Wii U, even if it was a failure, because of what they set out to do. The same with the Wii, same with the Switch. But they have this great concept idea, and then it just seems underbaked and unfulfilled. Every time I just get the feeling that if Microsoft or Sony were to follow up on one of Nintendo's concepts, they'd just make a better console. In the modern day, you've got you buy a console and it's not the end product. It's consistently evolving with patches, and Microsoft and Sony seem to be really on the button with that. Whereas Nintendo, they don't seem to be answering the fans in that regard, and the console, they just feel like they're being almost stagnant, and that's after they already feel way behind the curve. So in my opinion, yeah, I think Nintendo would do better to stop making consoles, put all the resource into making great games that everyone can play, multi-platform. They've got a huge audience to fulfill, and I think they'd do a fantastic job at it. Sega did a similar thing after the failure of the Dreamcast, and they've done it to some success, but I don't think Sega are in a league anywhere near Nintendo's. Nintendo, every generation, proved that they make consistent AAA titles which fans adore, and I think if Nintendo bring that to the masses, I think they'd do fantastic. So those are my thoughts. I hope you enjoyed it, and whether you agree or disagree is of interest. If you liked the video, then be sure to give it a like. If not, give it a dislike by all means. And if you like this sort of content, I'll be making more, so be sure to subscribe. Thanks a lot.